right, folks, Donald Trump hates Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. When I say hates, he can't stand her. So he called Texas Governor Greg Abbott and said, hey, I need y'all to redraw these congressional lines to get that black woman, you know, ain't what he said, out of Congress. And so Texas Governor Greg Abbott has now called a special session of the legislature. There are 18 points, but the main point is for them to redraw the congressional lines. And who are they targeting? 4 Democrats. They're targeting Congressman Al Green, Congressman Mark Vesey, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, Congresswoman Sylvia Garcia. Now, the issue, though, is understand, congressional lines typically are redrawn every decade. The census in 2020, lines are redrawn in 2021, and typically those hold for the decade. But Republicans only have a 4 or 5 seat majority of the United States House. They are scared to death they're going to lose the House next year because of their awful policies. So they want to shore up support by picking off the seats there. Now let me unpack why this is important. When Bishop Rev Barbara and Moral Mondays, first of all, let me go back before that. 2008, then Senator Barack Obama wins North Carolina in 2008 running for president. He won by 14,100 votes, okay? Then there was a significant black turnout in North Carolina. Then in 2010, they started moving voter suppression laws. Then they were able to take control of the North Carolina Supreme Court. They outlawed racial gerrymandering and political gerrymandering. So North Carolina went from 10 Republicans, 3 Democrats, to 7 Republicans, 7 Democrats. Wisconsin, same thing. Lawsuit took place. Supreme Court said, we don't have any control over political gerrymandering. That is how lines are drawn, meaning the state legislature, they hold the power to redraw lines. What happened in Wisconsin? Republicans control the Supreme Court. What then happened was the folks in Wisconsin were like, nah. So Democrats now have a 4-3 majority of the Wisconsin Supreme Court. What then happened? They successfully overruled the state, had to redraw state lines because the Republicans, they basically drew the lines to guarantee they will always have power. That's how you have these supermajorities in Florida, in Texas, and other places. In Michigan, they had a commission that said, oh, you got to create a commission, a ballot initiative to create a commission to redraw lines to make them fair. In Ohio, same thing happened. But the Republicans said, screw the commission, they overlooked them. So what the Republicans have done, so you understand, why do the Republicans have so much power on the state level, the congressional level? Because of political gerrymandering. By whoever controls the legislature, the House, the Senate, governor's mansion, puts you in control of the process. So when Republicans have a supermajority, which means they can pass whatever they want, don't even have to talk to the Democrats, that's how you get political gerrymandering. So they're sitting here going, damn, we might get our asses kicked next year. So we can pick up 4 in Texas. Then we can pick up a few over here. Yo, if we lose 5, 6 seats, we still hold the majority. Now, Democrats do political gerrymandering, but they're nicer about it, okay? Democrats are too much about fair. You got political gerrymandering in Maryland, okay? But Democrats are not as hardcore with political gerrymandering as Republicans. To me, that's stupid. California Governor Gavin Newsom, he has been saying, he's already on record as saying, all right, Texas Democrats, you punk asses gerrymander these districts, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to gerrymander in California. Here's my whole deal, Gavin Newsom. To hell with Texas. Do that shit anyway. That to me is dumb. This is about power, y'all. This ain't about fairness. And when the Supreme Court has already said, yo, we ain't got no jurisdiction or political gerrymandering, then you exercise power. I don't understand it. So, but here's the problem in Texas. Go to my iPad, Henry. This is a post in the Texas Tribune. In the Texas Tribune, which is a nonprofit site in Texas, you got someone is quoted as saying, we went down this road before and it didn't go well. In this article, they lay out that the Republicans did this in 2010. The problem is things begin to change in 2018. You see right here, 2018 was a midterm election. The political climate changed. A lot of Dems turned out. And so you had these so-called red districts, and Dems turned out, and Republicans lost statewide seats. They lost 2 congressional seats. And you see what Michael Lee, a redistricting expert at the Brennan Center, said, what looked like a silent gerrymander by the end of the decade had become almost a dummy mander. The lesson for 2010 is that you can stretch yourself too thin, that you can be too smart for your own good. And when the politics change, you get bitten in the you-know-where. So already there are some Republicans in Texas who are saying, hold up now, dog. I don't know about this here, because if all of a sudden we start changing lines, let me explain how that works. If we start changing lines to get rid of these 3 black Democrats and Latino, that means them black people and Latinos, they vote in our district. We might lose. Now, Sylvia Garcia represents the district where I grew up. I grew up in Clinton Park in Houston. That used to be a Republican district. Jack Fields, no, it's now a Democrat, okay? 18th Congressional District in Houston, Congresswoman Sheila Jackson Lee in the position. That's the seat that actually was Barbara Jordan, Mickey Leland, Craig Washington, Sheila Jackson Lee, Sylvester Turner, and the election is going to be in the fall. Now, here's the issue Republicans face. Section 2 Voting Rights Act. Now, we know this is a hardcore Republican Supreme Court, but we do have the 2 cases out of Alabama and Louisiana. It does not bode well for for Republicans. If they target these 4, guaranteed lawsuit, because the lawsuit is going to say you're denying black and Latinos representation. Supreme Court ruled against Republicans in Alabama, and they had to create what is called an opportunity district. It was not a majority black district, but it was about 45 to 47% black. That's how Congressman Shamari Figures was elected. In Louisiana, blacks make up 1/3 of the state. What happened there? Well, they had to create a new seat. Republicans fought it. They lost. They had to take a seat, take it from a white Republican. That's how Cleo Fields is back in Congress. Now, to understand the numbers, y'all, I need you to realize this here. Minorities make up 61% of all people in Texas. Let me say it again. Black and brown people comprise 61% of the total population of Texas. What's the problem? 61% of the people who vote in Texas are white. Second, Texas has the largest number of eligible black voters of any state in America. That goes back, y'all, to slavery. And even after slavery, where black folks were moving there. So when you look at the population of Texas, the black population kept increasing. Now today, you see the numbers. So legally, what's going to happen? White Republicans do this, they're getting sued. And the argument is going to be, you are depriving African Americans in Houston, Dallas, their own representatives in Congress. These white Republicans think, oh, Supreme Court's on our side. Greg, the issue they're going to have is, and again, I have no trust in these 6 folks on the Supreme Court at all. We know Clarence Thomas don't like black people, can't stand the Voting Rights Act, but we do have in recent history, very recent, where this Supreme Court ruled against white Republicans on the grounds of race in the congressional seats in Alabama and Louisiana.
Yeah, Roland, it's exciting I confess to being excited because what we're really talking about is whether or not these white nationalists and the Negroes they own, like Clarence Thomas, are willing to destroy completely destroy the concept of rule of law in the United States. As you mentioned, the Wisconsin case, which I think was 2010, the Gill case, Gill Whitcomb versus Whitcomb, I think, where they were saying, yeah, partisan gerrymandering is not justiciable, even though in that case they dismissed it for lack of standing. And then we remember you reported this, you covered this extensively, South Carolina, where the NAACP sued. And they said, well, it's a political gerrymandering. Now, before the white nationalists really took over the federal bench, certainly the Supreme Court, the justiciability of political gerrymandering, and this was all through North Carolina. This is Shaw versus Reno. This is the Ashford case out of Georgia. It wasn't at all clear that political gerrymandering couldn't be seen as a proxy for race. But as they have made this more white nationalist, more right wing, extreme right wing, they've really obliterated that. But here's the problem. And you just laid out the problem beautifully, brother. There is no majority and there's no minority. They're all minorities in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
African people, whether they speak Spanish or English, indigenous folk, and Mexican Americans are, and white people, all minorities in Texas. The demographic time bomb that is ticking in the United States of America is ticking loudest in Texas. There's only so many squiggly lines you can draw before you simply can't draw yourself into continued political domination. So what the courts have done, and you saw this in Alabama, as you say, with the good brother Shamari Figures, you saw it in Louisiana, where they don't have just one with Brother Cleo Fields, but two black congressional districts. And when they went to the court this summer, the court ruled a couple of weeks ago that the Louisiana versus Calais case, they rescheduled oral arguments for the next term, for the fall. That's important because the maps that are drawn in Louisiana will stay in place. And as you said, as soon as they try this damn punk-ass governor of Texas tries this with this special session, they're going to go to court, and this won't affect the upcoming election cycle. They're going to have to go through the courts. Well, the bottom line is this. Just like holding back the sea with your hands, you can't hold back the demographics. This is for the white nationalists who hate watch. You're finished. And no matter how many times you draw these squiggly lines, we're going to go to court, and what the courts have to decide is whether or not they are going to sacrifice the concept of rule of law on the altar of continuing white supremacy. If they do that, all bets are off. And at that point, yeah, the gloves are completely off. And even the timid people like the governor of California, now you just go for broke. And I'm not sure that the country can survive that.
Yeah, and to me, Reese, that's where California, New York State, where Democrats all have power, you exercise power. You say, y'all want to play that game? Because here's the deal. Republicans have done it in Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee. In Tennessee, they despise the fact that Democrats, that Nashville and Memphis are Democratic cities. So they said, you know what, Nashville, we got your ass. They cut, there were two Democrats in Tennessee in the congressional district, Nashville and Memphis. They split Nashville into 4 congressional districts. So Nashville no longer has a member of Congress. It's split into 4 different districts that guaranteed a Republican winning. They took away one of those seats. And so folk have to understand that's how Republicans have played hardball. Democrats still going, oh, we are nice and fuzzy. No, I think we just believe in fairness and what's right and what's just. So we're just gonna be real nice about this. No, this is where you must be ruthless when you have the power.
Well, I sure as hell hope so. But when they gonna start doing that? Because Republicans operate under "who gonna check me, boo," and Democrats operate under "oh no, I don't want anybody to say anything, so let me just preemptively surrender or let me just water stuff down." And that's why people are very much disillusioned with the Democratic Party. Obviously, they are far superior in terms of their policy and their governance, but they just don't have that killer instinct that Republicans do. And unfortunately, Republicans only use their killer instinct to the detriment of the American people. Whereas the Democrats want to make American life better, but they're too fucking scared to do it. But here's the thing. Republicans are making sure that they can stay in power as long as they can, as long as they need to, without actually having to earn the votes. They can cheat their way to it, but it's going to become increasingly difficult because if you look at the balance of the House right now, 1,700 votes before several Democrats died, unfortunately, but 1,700 votes gave the Republicans the House majority. That was it across 3 districts. There are 10 districts where the margin was under 1%. And so this is a very, very close race. If you even look at massive turnout, Republicans won the popular vote in 2024. They haven't done that in a while, but gerrymandering had helped them out. And so this is going to depend, in terms of 2026, is going to depend on if people wake the fuck up, if they finally hold Republicans accountable, and if they will finally wake up to the truth instead of all this disinformation that permeates and creates this alternative reality and make Republicans pay for what they've done. Republicans paid for that final push to repeal Obamacare when Donald Trump was president in 2018, and they got wiped out. We'll see if that happens again in 2026, but I'm still not seeing enough energy and enough attention from people at the shitstorm that is currently here, and it's going to get even worse.
You know, Greg, we spend an inordinate amount of time trying to get people watching our social media explaining why voting matters. And you got these simple Simons, and I ain't gonna give them no attention by saying their names, because they trash, they ain't worth shit. And they love talking shit, they love complaining, they love talking about what Democrats ain't done this, Democrats ain't done that, they ain't done this, done that. And they frankly are ops, and paid or not, and they're responsible for driving down the black vote. Here we go to my iPad. I need people to understand this here. Y'all look at the data right here. Based on data from 2022, Texas had the largest number of eligible black voters in the United States, with 2.9 million people. In recent statewide elections, 2020 and 2022, black voters constituted about 12% of the total votes in Texas. Now, let me explain why that's actually misleading, or why those two go together. So you have the most eligible voters in Texas. What I keep saying, Greg, is we're not maximizing our vote.
No.
I'm not interested in, oh, well, we were 12% of the vote. Yeah, but what was our number? Could we have been 15% of the vote, 18% of the vote, 20% of the vote, if we actually maximize our numbers? I'm always saying that the target goal I have is 70. I know people say, man, bro, come on, bro, that's real high. But I'm very serious. Because actually, we're over 3 million now. So let's just say 3 million. If our target goal is 70%, that means that of the 3 million voters, 2.1 million votes. That changes elections. And so if the Republicans try this game, we maximize our vote, we can wipe several of their asses out.
Absolutely.
So what I keep saying to black people, whether it's Texas, whether it's Louisiana, whether it's North Carolina and the Black Belt, whether it's South Carolina, and yes, whether it's Florida, you cannot bitch and moan about what we're not getting and who's not representing us if we're not showing up at the ballot box to make our presence known.
No, that's right. That's right, Roland. It's because they are white supremacists. This isn't even about politics alone. This is the politics of white supremacy. And, your home state has taught us the lessons in how we fight. These are the famous cases of the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. In fact, Congressman Green, when he told everyone, this is right after he filed that second attempt to impeach this bozo down the street in public housing, 2 blocks from where you are, he came to your studio a couple of weeks ago, and he said, they're after my seat. But if they get me, there'll be somebody else. It's important. And he evoked the Nixon versus Condon case, of course, there in Houston, the dentist there, who's memorialized at the African American library at the old Gregory School. Texas showed the country how to fight. I'm talking about black Texans when it looked most austere in the 30s and 40s with the white primaries. If we have to go back to that model, we have a model in what to do. It involves that voter participation, that voter organization and mobilization. It involves our institutions, the black church, the black professional associations, the sororities and fraternities. All that is a backdrop to what I want to say here. You've talked to Greg Palast on several occasions. We must never underestimate the importance of voter suppression. That's why you always encourage people to check your voter registration, check your voter registration. I'm not at all sure that the reason that we've got to deal with Trump again isn't primarily not just disinformation, but the fact that people, when they got ready to vote, found themselves not on the rolls. Voter suppression is real. If we vote anywhere near our numbers, as Gary Chambers always reminds us, we win. There are no red states in the South. There are under-organized and under-mobilized states, as he and Rev Barbara have said many times, including right here. Texas is not only up for grabs, Texas can be purged of white nationalist domination simply by people being vigilant. And finally, before anyone says it's not possible, we have the history to show us that not only is it possible, that is how we have gotten to this point. We can ignore the trolls, the ops, and others. You were in Louisiana. I'd love to hear what your thoughts were on Essence Fest, because now they're in a battle talking about it's the continental Africans' fault that the Essence is ruined. Listen, stop being stupid. Understand that when it comes to white nationalism, a Frenchman, an Englishman, somebody from Texas, Louisiana, New York City, anywhere else, they find a way to come together on the thing they agree on. Meanwhile, they work very hard to keep us at each other's throats. And yes, I'm talking about all you people too who are saying, what about ain't no black and brown coalition? You need to wake up and understand that white people can be at each other's throats. But when it comes time for the thing that they want to get done, they will hold their nose and link their arms like they're in a damn civil rights march. You and meanwhile looking for your hair is 3 inches shorter than mine. I'm against you. That's stupidity. And we have never advanced that way. Texas, I think, can shock us and surprise us and also confirm the fact that we know what to do if it will simply go into its memory bank of history and understand that we know how to do this. We've done it before.
Henry, go to my iPad. Racy, literally while we were talking, Bishop Barbara just sent this to a group text that I'm on. Like when I say literally, I'm talking about as Greg was talking. So talk about right timing from the Lord. He said, we can't ignore the work in our own hood. Below is Pew study work. We have to have it vetted and checked in. If accurate, we must face it seriously and strategically. And GOTV work can't be limited to 30 days before election with people speaking. Our efforts must start in August this year. If MAGA and the Senate and the House and state legislatures are as bad as we all say, there are 60% of all black folks poor and low wage. 85 million people are poor and low income. In 2020, 58 million people in this group cast ballots, making up 34 to 46% of voters in 9 battleground states and more than 20% in all but 5 states. Black voters represented 13.2% of all eligible voters. We can't win alone. We have to build coalitions around an agenda. As of 2022, about half of black eligible voters live in one of 8 states. Texas is the largest number with 2.9 million, followed by Georgia and Florida, 2.6 million each. Rounding out the top 8 are New York, 2.4 million, California, 2 million, North Carolina, 1.8 million. And in my state, North Carolina, 990,000 black people didn't vote, and Trump won the state by 163,000 votes. Maryland and Illinois, 1.4 million each. Together, these states account for 52% of black eligible voters in the 50 states and District of Columbia. Even with a black sister on the ticket and a racist Trump on the ticket, here's the fact we must confront and figure out from bottom up, not just top down. In the 2024 presidential election, the turnout rate for black voters was 59.6%. According to USA Facts, it was a 3 percentage point decline in 2024 compared to 2020. This is part of a broader trend. Trump nearly doubled his support among black voters from between 2020 and 2024. 8% voted for him in 2020, 15% last year. 83% of black voters backed Harris. But, Reese, this is the key right here. This is the critical key. I keep telling y'all. Look at that last line. 41% of eligible black voters did not participate.
Well, we can make the difference. We have the capacity. We're not even talking about registering new voters. With the people that are already registered to vote, yes, there's voter suppression, but there are people with valid registrations that can't get their ass out and vote, no matter how much we beg and plead. Now, I think that the Democratic Party underinvests in black voters. They wait too long to swoop on in and say, hey, y'all, how y'all doing? What's that big head? But the fucking reality is, can we vote offensively ever? Do we always gotta wait until it's a pandemic and we dropping like flies? Or now that this big, beautiful bill has passed and millions of people are gonna be knocked off of SNAP and off of Medicaid and are gonna lose their homes because Section 8 benefits are going away, and then we're like, oh shit, we gotta get out and vote. Can we maintain some of the gains that we make? Because that was what was on the ballot, in addition to our citizenship. We have to start taking some accountability about the capacity that we have that we are not exercising, regardless of the capacity that we are exercising that they're trying to take away. We don't even exercise all this shit over here. And then we wonder why we live in Republican trifecta states, but then have the nerve to say, well, Democratic Party never done shit for me. When the last time you had a Democratic Party leader in your state? Where is the Republican governor, Republican leader of their legislature, Republican mayor? When's the last time you even had a Democrat in charge? So we have to start waking up. I see so much, and Dr. Carr, you talked about it, some of the diaspora wars. We don't need a coalition. They over there. Okay, well, shit, if we're going to be by ourselves, can we rise the fuck up in the positions that we have with the capacity that we have? Since we don't need nobody, we ain't got nothing for nobody else. We ain't even got shit for our own damn selves. That's part of the problem. So, yes, we do need to stop gerrymandering, stop voter suppression. We definitely need to stop disinformation, because that's doing a number on our asses very, very easily. The dissuasion campaign, all that is really, really killing it. Woo, child. Whoever made that investment is getting a massive return on their investment. But if we ever just exercise our capacity, Roland, I don't even think 70% should be that unachievable. Look at what white evangelicals vote at. Look at what other groups vote at. That's not even a massive number. Look at other countries where people vote 80 something, 90%. That shouldn't even be asking too much. So the bar is in hell, and we still can't even do that much. And then we look around and wonder why shit is fucked up. I would love for us to be able to say that the white folks is going to wake up one day, because I'm tired of being a black woman, 92% shouldering shit, 87% black men shouldering shit. But in the meantime, in between time, what are we going to do about it?
Absolutely. And so Bishop Barbara's absolutely right. Which is why I have been saying, start now. In what I always say, educate, enlighten, inform. Educate, enlighten, inform.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Listen to what I'm about to tell you. The window to invest in Fanbase is closing. We've raised over $10.6 million of our $17 million goal. That means there's room for less than 6,370 people to invest in Fanbase for the average amount. The minimum to invest in Fanbase right now is $399. That makes you an owner in Fanbase today. Go to startengine.com/fanbase to invest. Why? because current social apps have taken advantage of users for far too long, with content suppression, shadow banning, harmful racist content, and no real tools for monetization and equity. Fanbase has over 1.4 million users and counting, allowing anyone to reach all their following and monetize their content from day one. Social media is the new TV, and whoever owns the apps that distribute that content have the opportunity to own potential billion-dollar companies. While big platforms with uncertain futures are failing to serve their users, Fanbase is stepping up to fill the gap. Don't wait until it's too late. Invest now, invest for yourself and your future. Go to startengine.com/fanbase and own the next generation of social media.